ESPN, and everything was quiet on that front until yesterday. All of a sudden, Scoopy, and all of a sudden, the Sixers name got thrown into the mix. Before it was the Sun and the Heat. How did the Sixers all of a sudden make their way onto Kevin Durant's list of teams he would be interested in?
Hey, Mike, always good to talk to you. Credit Ian Begley at SNY and his reporting, and from everything that seems to be pointed in that direction. KD is still very unhappy with what's going on. But the Sixers, I made some calls today and spoke to two folks. And one is tied directly with someone who would be involved in the trade, and the other is someone who would know some things that are going on within the organization, Philadelphia-wide. And what I got from it is that their feelings are mutual, and that the Sixers did place a call to Brooklyn yesterday when that news was broken by Ian Begley. But the thing about it is, in order for that to happen, you'd have to include Tyrese Maxey, you'd have to include Matisse Thybulle, and you'd have to include Tobias Harris, who is a native New Yorker. His dad is from Harlem. He's from Long Island, so he has ties to both the suburbs and the city. And it'll be interesting to see if that happens. But I do think that there are some other deals that are a little bit better, in my opinion.
Obviously, the Sixers, it seems that they have the players like Maxey, Thybulle, Harris. That would be suitable, right? But it doesn't seem to make a lot of sense other than that. They don't have a lot of draft capital that would make Brooklyn jump off the page at a deal with the Sixers, right?
I mean, that gets tricky because I think a lot of times, particularly a team like Brooklyn, a team like Philly, and a team like, I don't know, the Suns or the Pelicans, and less the Pelicans and more the Suns, are looking to build for the now, to build a championship team and fill out a championship roster with picks. If the Nets are looking to recoup that, it gets interesting. The one thing that I can say, if you're looking to move Durant for that, I think the thing that gets interesting, just to kind of go back to January and February when there were conversations that were being had, Brooklyn did want Tyrese Maxey in that Harden for Simmons deal, and Philadelphia told him no.
Yeah,
so what's your...
Well, as you kind of insinuated that, the Sixers were right on the phone as soon as they heard that, Durant has some interest there. They could be interested, but they just might not have the will or the want or the firepower to get a deal done, right? Is that the biggest obstacle? The Sixers would like to do a deal that the Nets just might say, you don't have enough to suffice for us.
I would like to take Beyonce on a date, but Jay-Z may have other plans.
Right, we're all in a situation where some things we just can't have what we want, and it seems that might be
right.
where the Sixers, might be. Yeah, they're interested. The brass is saying we love to get this done, but I mean, how much hardball? The Sixers were in this exact situation last year, so they know what kind of calls they got for Ben Simmons. I would imagine the Nets are getting calls, but people are probably trying to lowball them.
Yeah, but this is the thing. This has been an ongoing thing all summer. The Nets have had conversations with, from my reporting, the Raptors. The Raptors didn't want to give up Scotty Barnes. The Suns didn't want to give up Devin Booker. And the Pelicans did not want to give up Brandon Ingram. And you go down the list. When I remember after Summer League was over, and I know that the Nets were having conversations with the Lakers, or a revisit of a conversation with the Lakers, I was on the phone with a Nets official, and they said to me, and I'll give you the edited version because we are on live radio, so you don't have to prepare the bleep button, but, we don't have to give up sugar, honey, iced tea for Kyrie or KD. And they said to me that the thing that you're going to see, this was on a Sunday, I remember, because I was watching The Simpsons at 8 o'clock that night. And the thing that stood out was they said to me, you're going to see a storyline come Monday stating, basically, the Nets can't get nothing. And it got quiet. You didn't start hearing things until Tuesday. And so what ultimately is happening is you're getting these lowball offers, and they're reactionary based upon what Kevin Durant wants. And I've said this on Spotify, where I host a weekly show, and I'll say it on your show. I think as much as Kevin Durant wants to leave, I also think that this is positioning of power for a potential takeover for Rich Kleiman, who is Kevin Durant's business associate, his business manager, his agent.
Wow.
I think it's bigger than the fact that Philadelphia is being named. And I think this is something that has been going on and being discussed so much throughout the course of the summer. The bottom line is it seems as though Kyrie, at times as reported, he wanted to go elsewhere. There was no suitable person out there or team out there that could take on that contract, so he had to opt in. And then on the Kevin Durant side, there's some issues there. I know this is a Philadelphia-centered show, but a lot of this goes back to some of the housekeeping that wasn't in order in Brooklyn, namely the fact that Adam Harrington, a close friend of, and who was an assistant coach with Durant, was let go. There's some things on the Kyrie side with an assistant coach there. Mm-hmm. And the fact that a lot of guys on that team just don't like Steve Nash, and that was very underreported. James Harden didn't get along with Steve Nash, and that's why ultimately one of the reasons that he requested a trade. You're seeing a lot of guys that are unhappy, and here we are now.
So how much, Durant is open to playing with James Harden? What's their relationship like? Like, is he like, man, I brought Harden to Brooklyn, and then Harden wanted to get out of here, but I'd like to rekindle that relationship if possible. So how much is his relationship with Harden in play here?
I'm not sure. I know that ultimately the way he left, many people thought that it was a Harden and Kyrie issue, and it was more of a Harden and Steve Nash issue. I think it's bigger than just Harden. If you're given the opportunity to team up with Joel Embiid and play under Doc Rivers, you do so. I know that, even the relationship with – I think there's something in the water via L.A. to Philadelphia, because I do know I reported this a couple weeks ago. Back in 2019, Kevin Durant wanted Ty Lue as the head coach of the Brooklyn Nets instead of Steve Nash. And I know that there's a respect that Kevin does have for veteran coaches. So I would imagine that would go over well if he were to go to Philadelphia. But again, Brooklyn does not have to trade him to Philadelphia. And here's where it gets tricky. You traded once within the division. So I'm going to start to ask some questions. Does Sean Marks have aspirations to work in the 76ers front office? I'm joking, of course.
Right.
But ultimately, when you look at this situation with Harden and Durant, to directly answer your question, their relationship goes back to Oklahoma. But I definitely think that when you look at Harden and what he's been able to do, he's got a friend in P.J. Tucker on that team. Daniel House is on that team. And then, you look at the front office staff with Tad Carper, the CEO position, and even with Daryl Morey in that position. It seems as though Harden's a good recruiter, so if he were to get Kevin Durant to force his way out like he did in Philadelphia, would be interesting.
Scoopy, Bally Sports NBA insider. I guess we'll finish with this. If the Nets gave Kyrie the deal that he wants, would that change Durant's mind?
No. I think it's a part of the puzzle. I think the other portion of it has to do with the head coach.
Gotcha.
I know a lot of guys don't that team.
Yeah, no,
that isn't Steve Nash.
So it's not so much, hey, you've treated Kyrie poorly, and that makes me want to leave. It's more what he said. If you get rid of the coach and the GM, that would change my mind, but nothing else.
Yeah, I think that sounds about right. I'm very tied to the Kyrie situation. Kyrie is kind of just centering and playing basketball and focused on the season ahead. From the inklings that I've gotten in conversations Monday and Tuesday, this is more Kevin and than less Kyrie. I've spoken to people who have talked to Kev before he had the meeting with Joe Tsai, the owner of the Nets, and they advised him to kind of slow it down a little bit and let me advise you on how we can go about this situation. And ultimately, he decided to do his own thing, and here we are now.
Scoop B, appreciate it, man. Good stuff.
Brother, thank you.
All right, check out Brandon Scoop B Robinson and his Spotify show. It's always a must-listen for all the info on this Kevin Durant and what's happening next. And, my gosh, at Scoop B on Twitter, Brandon Scoop B Robinson on the Sports Bash.